Okay, so today we are learning about 45, 45, 90 special right triangles. And I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to do our bell ringer. It shouldn't take super long, but I'm going to let this go so my 6 hour has space. So I'm going to let this record. I'm not sold that I'm going to let you guys use them yet. So... Okay, I'm going to give it another minute. I'm going to give it 20 more seconds to make it so they have full 3 minutes. Okay, we'll get started now. Okay, so with the first two, you guys need to use the Pythagorean Theorem. You guys remember that is? Exactly right, nice job. Remember, C is the hypotenuse. It's always the one directly across from the right angle. So that's your C. So we do this, we have a squared. I'm going to write, I don't have to rewrite it. Like this. 6 squared plus 8 squared equals C squared. What's 6 squared?
36.
36. What's 8 squared?
64.
Equals C squared. When you add those together, what do you get?
100.
100 equals C squared. How do we undo a square?
Square root it.
Square root it. Square root of 100 is?
10.
Yep, so C equals 10. Nice job. The next one is a similar problem, but now you know the hypotenuse, so you know the C squared. Yesterday on your guys' triangle investigation worksheet, I noticed this error commonly. You guys still put it as a leg. So when we do that, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. This is the C squared part. So 15 squared equals 12 squared plus A squared. What is 12 squared?
144.
144. What's 15 squared?
225.
225. What was my next step?
So subtract.
Subtract 144. Okay, what do we get?
81.
81. A squared equals 81. Ooh, that's a weird 8. Okay, and then what do we do to undo that square?
Square root it.
Thank you. A equals 9. Nice work. Okay, we learned theorems about this, but it's been a while. Do you guys remember the theorem? Okay, what is it? It's something with the two sides. So our theorem was, when you see you have a triangle that has two congruent angles Sides opposite of congruent angles also have to be congruent. So we know this would be isosceles triangle because it has two congruent base triangles. And so those are way our sides would also be congruent. So all we had to do here was set them equal to each other. 24 equals 2x plus 8. Or subtract that 8. You said it was what, hun? 16 equals 2x. Last step. Divide by. X equals 8. Okay, and then this is the converse of that same theorem. If you have two congruent sides, the angles opposite them also have to be congruent. Are you raising your hand, hon? Okay. And so we can set these two equal to each other. 5x minus 18 equals 47. What's my first step? Yep, plus 18. What do you get when you add it? 65. Ooh, let me catch up. There we go. Next step?
5 by 5.
Divide by 5. X equals?
13.
X equals 13. Nice job, guys. Okay, so I'm giving you guys a couple minutes to draw the triangles. So take a minute and draw them out. All 4 triangles, and we're going to solve them. They all have the same basic shape. You're switching numbers on them. Okay, do you guys need another second?
Yes. C.
Okay. You good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here it tells you on your page, not on mine, that we're going to solve these using the Pythagorean Theorem. I'm going to pause for 1 second. Okay, so these are the real triangles you should be drawing, so make sure you take a second, 6th hour, and fix them. So the pictures should be similar. You just have to change the numbers. So I'll give you another 30 seconds or so. So these are the real 1 through 4, so please take a second and update your pictures. So for our first one, Kayla, I'm going to set the Pythagorean Theorem just so they can see it. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So what is your A?
A is 8. A squared.
Yep, plus
A squared.
equals?
X squared equals C
Yeah, we can do x squared. That's probably better. X squared, okay. And then what is 8 squared?
64.
64 plus 6
64.
equals x squared. What's 64 plus 64?
128.
Okay, so we have x squared equals 128. Next step.
You square root it and it goes into 64 and 2.
Okay,
And 64 goes into 8 and 8.
8 and 8.
I put a box around it.
Yep.
Perfect square. So,
Perfect square. So yep, 8.
square root of 2.
Excellent job. 8 square root of 2. Okay, our next one up. Would somebody like to volunteer to do that one? Jack? Are you volunteering? Okay. So let me start by writing the Pythagorean Theorem again just so we have it. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, what's your A squared?
4 squared.
And B squared?
4 squared.
Equals?
C squared.
Okay, what's 4 squared?
32.
Okay, you did the next step.
Oh.
So 16 plus 16 equals C squared.
Oh, yeah.
And then you got the 32. You're just quicker than me. Okay, now what do you do next?
You square root it.
Square root it. Okay, factors of 32.
16 and 2.
Okay, and what do we know about those? Or one of those?
It's a perfect square.
Yep, so we can do that just like Kayla did. So what's the square root of 16?
4 and 4.
4, yep. So 4 square root of
2.
2 is going to be our final answer. Nice job. Okay, our next one up. Would somebody like to volunteer to do that one? Chandler. Okay, so I'm going to write it again. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, what is your A? Yep, 5 squared. What's your B? Okay, what's your C? C squared or X, either one. Okay, what's 5 squared? What's 20 or 5 squared? We're going to add those together. What do you get? Okay, 50 equals C squared. Next step. Square root it. So factors of 50.
25 and 2.
Yep, 2 and 25. 5 and 5. We circle it. 5 square root 2. Okay, Mariah, last one. Let me write this down. Sorry. So what is your A?
It's 3 squared.
What's your B?
3 squared. X squared. Equals C squared.
I'll put X squared. You guys are right. That's what I should have there. 2 of them had X's and 2 didn't. So what's 3 squared?
9.
Plus?
So it's 9.
Equals?
X squared.
What's 9 plus 9?
18.
18 equals X squared. What do we do next?
Square root it.
Square root it. Factors of 18?
2 and 9.
2 and 9.
And then 9 will be 3 and 3.
3 and 3. Things that have buddies come out. So what do you have left?
3 squared.
Okay, so 3 square root of 2. Okay, I'm going to box that in. I want you guys to take a second and look at these answers. What do you notice? Square root of 2. So you notice here we have 8, 8, and 8 root 2. You have 5, 5, 5 root 2. You have 4, 4, 4 root 2. You have 3, 3, 3 root 2. Which brings us to?
2.
Oh, I'll go back. I'll pause it. This brings us to what I was saying a second ago, our formula triangle. I'm going to fix this real quick. The X's are a little out of place, so I'm going to erase them.
Ow.
I'll write them here.
Nick, never do that shit. What?
Really?
What?
So you guys, what I'd put on your page to make sure that it's number times square root of 2, and then you have the formula triangle. This formula triangle is one you're going to memorize. Obviously, you see it's not super complicated. X, X, X root 2. But this should be at the bottom of your page on what you're doing. So I'm giving you a second to draw it if you haven't done it yet.
You ain't gotta draw it. It's on
Okay,
there.
add in the information then. Okay, so we're going to go on to our next slide. Okay, these are the ones you guys drew previously.
I was
So-
on the wrong page.
If you guys drew these previously, you can just go back to those and then just write notes, or you add these to the back page. We only end up with the number that are on here. I don't have any extras. So even though the first two have numbers on the bottom. So I'm going to give you a minute to draw these. I'm going to leave my recording going so that they have time to draw them as well. Potentially. So here we have that formula triangle from our last slide. You guys have. I'm going to draw at the top here. X, X, X root 2. What's our value of X in this case? Oh, let me try this again. So I'm going to rewrite this. Last year that was confusing. People like to view it with A root 2 because we actually have X that we're searching for. But you see the A has a value of what? So we know the A length would be
7.
is 7. So we know if A equals 7, to find X, it would be A root 2. So 7 square root of 2. We also know this side would be 7 because they're congruent. Over here, you know that A would have to be 15. So A, we know they're congruent, so this has to be 15. What's X have to be?
15 square root of 2.
15 square root of 2. Yep. And you see the trend down here. We see our A is going to be 20. And then X is going to be 20 square root of 2. And then we have our last one. And this one gives you, exactly right. So you can see it just by looking at a square root of 2 that your a has to be 18. So x would be 18. Or you could actually do the division, divide by the square root of 2. They cancel. You're left with just 18 equals a. So either way there works. Any questions on this? I apologize, guys. You have to add these in. We now have 4 examples. I'm going to give you a minute to draw it. You guys can pause the video. Okay, so here, I wrote the formula triangle back up there. I'm going to show you 2 ways to solve number 5. With this one, you don't have to write the Pythagorean Theorem way. That's the first way I'm going to do it. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. We know that c squared is 36. So we have 36 squared. We have x squared plus, both lengths have the same, so this one also has to be x. So you end up with 2x squared equals 36 squared. Even though I asked you guys you didn't have to write this, I told you guys you didn't have to write this. Can somebody tell me what 36 squared is? That's square rooted. So you just went the reverse direction. You're fine.
1,296.
1,296 like this? Okay, we're going to divide that by 2.
648.
Okay, 648. Okay, and so then we had to get rid of that square, so we're going to square root both sides. And then now we're going to factor and find our factor tree. So what goes into 648? 324 and 2? Okay, what goes into 324?
4 and 81.
What'd you say, hon? So this one here, we squared 36. Okay. And then we know 81 goes to 99. I'm going to circle that. That's a perfect square. 4 goes to 2 and 2. So we multiply 2 times 9 to get my number on the outside. 18. The thing that doesn't have a buddy is?
2.
It stays locked up. So we see by Pythagorean theorem that x equals 18 square root of 2. That's one way of doing all of these problems, but there's a quicker method. Yep, Trinity?
Where'd you get 2x?
I had 2 x's because we know that they're congruent sides. So that means both of them have to be x in length. Okay, so here's a potentially faster method, but you have to work a little bit more with radicals. So instead, we look at our formula triangle, and we see which side matches with this. So what's the formula for the side that matches with that 36? Yep. So, yep, a square root of 2. Okay. So now we want to get a by itself. What can I do? Divide by the square root of 2. So I have a equals 36 square root of 2. How do I get rid of a square root in my denominator? How do we rationalize that? Multiply by square root of 2 over 2. So in my numerator, I get 36 square root of 2 over square root of 2 times square root of 2 is square root of square root of 4. What's the square root of 4?
What number we on?
We are on, this is still the first one, number 5. I'm just showing you a quicker method. So that's going to be what? 2? 2 goes into 36 how many times?
18.
18. So you get a equals 18 square root of 2. We got the same answer, but arguably this is much quicker. So this is the method I'm going to use on our next group. Are you ready to go? Okay, so for the next one, I'm only going to use the shorter method. So here you see again, you have the hypotenuse. So you have 24. Ooh, that's not right. 24. And then what is it equal to in the formula triangle?
A square root of 2.
A square root of 2. We want to get a by itself. What do I got to do?
Divide by root 2.
Divide by the square root of 2. I end up with a equals 24 over the square root of 2. Got to get that square root of 2 out of my denominator. What do I have to do?
Multiply by square root of 2 over square root of 2.
Multiply by square root of 2 over square root of 2. That's perfect. 24 square root of 2 over square root of 4, which breaks down to just be 2, because the square root of 4 is 2. How many times does 2 go into 24?
12 times.
12 square root of 2 is going to be my answer. X equals 12 square root of 2. Okay, our next one up. Same idea. You have 50. We're going to set it equal to our formula triangle. So a square root of 2, what do I have to do? Divide by square root of 2. We end up with a equals, these cancel, 50 square root over square root of 2. Multiply by? Over square root of 2. Excellent.
Wait, how do you get 14?
It's 24. And that's the square root of 4.
That's like 4?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get 4?
So 2 times 2 in the bottom. So you multiply the stuff underneath the radical. 2 times 2 is 4. Gives me 4. Okay, so back to this one. We end up with 50 square root of 2 over the square root of 4. What's the square root of 4? 2. 2 goes into 50 how many times?
25.
So you end up with 25 square root of 2. Okay, our last one here is we have 10 equals a square root of 2. What do I got to do?
Square root of
Divide by that square root of 2. You end up with these canceling out. You get a equals 10 square over, whoop, be careful Jenkins, 10 over square root of 2. Multiply top and bottom by.
Square root of 2.
You end up with 10 square root of 2 over the square root of 4. What's the square root of 4?
2.
2. You don't actually have to show that step. So how many times does 2 go into 10?
5.
5 square root of 2 is our x. So if you look at these, you notice something. If you have a whole number, your side lengths are just half of the whole number with the square root of 2 with it. So keep that in mind. Thank you guys. Do your homework.